my bets that each and every one of you in the audience today has something handmade in their homes, whether it is a porcelain dish, whether it is the fabric that is behind the shirt or the dress that you're wearing today, or for instance, it could be that piece of art that you have on your walls. When we look at the handmade, it takes care of both utility as well as the pleasure of being aesthetic. In the culture and the geography that I come from, an object which is handmade can also help unlock access to communities that have been practicing a craft for hundreds of years across generations. At the same time, what it is, am I pointing to the right thing? Can I have the next slide?
Right.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying was that not only does it sort of unlock access to intergenerational knowledge, which is hundreds of years old, it also gives us access to sustainable and green ways of creating that object. And in addition to that, there are stories and performances, songs, and a variety of community activities which are about creating that object and also consuming it. And finally, of course, there is an opportunity to create so many kinds of new financial models because artisans are the largest non-farm sector providing livelihood in India, which is soon to be the most populous and is certainly the youngest country in the world in terms of numbers. So this is a market which is growing. This is a tradition that has existed for a fair amount of time. And what I would like to do with Kaari, which is the enterprise that I'm here to speak about, is to say that you, as in the consumers of that product, are most likely not able to directly interact with the person who produced that object that you have so dearly in your house, right? The chances are that now, when I said everybody in the room will have something handmade in their houses, everybody who has something handmade in their houses would not have met the people who have made it, would not know about the price points, would not know about the stories of these makers. The chances are that even if they do, they would be curated by somebody else and not be direct. And now let's look at the metaverse. If you're shopping for things for your avatar, trying to set up the real estate that you are very fond of, whether it is your virtual office or your virtual home, your ability to use an authentic, craft-based product is negligible because artisans do not have access to the metaverse. And what Kaari does is steps in and tries to provide a combination of services. The first is a physical product, which is the artifact that you would like in your homes. The second is the 3D counterpart, which is an augmented reality or virtual reality version of it, non-fungible, unique. And the third is a creative artifact, which is a bouquet of stories and songs and performances and experiences which you can unlock. So rather than you going to different places and spaces for the same thing, we are able to provide you this, and we do that by eliminating the middleman. According to research, the middleman who sources from craftspersons and artisans makes up to 200 to 400% in terms of profit margins. And by this, I not only mean individuals, but also e-commerce websites and institutions. Now, using Web3, it will be possible to provide financial transparency so that artisan and artisan collectives are able to see and quote the prices and ensure that the end user is also responding to that. We will be able to provide proof of origin by using cryptospatial coordinate systems. Geotagging will allow you to know that that piece of fabric that is woven comes from that village and that community that you think it should come from. Secondly, it takes care of counterfeiting and therefore authenticity, which is what makes a piece of art unique, beautiful, valuable remains. Now, when you create a physical object as an artisan and you've sold that beautiful stole, you don't know if it is resold many times over, and you certainly don't get the end benefit. But what we could do with the 3D assets is to ensure that they have royalty on each resale of those products. And finally, becoming a stakeholder in the metaverse. Rather than being the hungry, starved person who does not have access, this is an opportunity for them to ride the wave of the metaverse and certainly to be the first people there and benefit from that. And how do we do this? We do this because we have at the center of everything the Kaari token. So anytime somebody accesses or purchases one of our offerings, either all or in combination with each other, a token will be generated which will be accrued to artisans. Now, artisan collectives, once they collect a certain number of tokens, will be able to then encash them at a raw materials bank. This could be a thread bank, it could be a color bank, it could be a materials bank. And there exist now, post the pandemic, many initiatives that are trying to create these banks. So it's not just about getting money, but it's also about getting raw materials. And so we link the virtual with the physical. We do not destroy the skill set and the ecosystem of the craft person, but we allow them to transpose their skills into the virtual. And then when you as a user or as a collector or a buyer acquire something from Kaari, you can incentivize others. And so if you refer, you earn a token. And that token can be encashed by you to get access to something which is part of a luxury collection and a unique collection. So in one sense, we use the tokens to incentivize not just perpetuity, but also a healthy exchange and growth of the community. And the focus, therefore, is not about reinventing, but reimagining and building the pipeline where it does not exist. Now, all of this is not anchored only in ideas. If we were to look at some of the data points, there is a competitive market for sure. There are new entrants which come in, but none of them combines all of these to help the artisans be the people directly selling. The global market projection is rather unique. And we want to start with India because my co-founder and I, we belong to that country. There are 7 million intergenerational artisans according to official estimates, but unofficial estimates state the number as 200 million. That is not a small number, that is not a small market, that's certainly not a small set of suppliers. There are over 3,000 plus craft traditions, each of them unique from the other, and there are about 1.58 billion exports that were done annually last year, so you can imagine this is only increasing, and the pandemic has not sort of disrupted it. Our beachhead market would be narrative scroll art, and we already have partnerships with two art collectives, Eki Beki and Kala Chopal in India, which are able to give us access to over 10,000 artisans practicing various kinds of scroll art. And Link Lab in Irvine, California, has developed a technology where artisans can use screens, use their own methods of narrative art, and that automatically creates an augmented reality 3D asset. So we are completely cutting through the clutter in terms of media literacy, accessibility, and not taking away the tools from the artists, but giving them another sort of skill set with which they can become equal stakeholders. As far as Kaari is concerned, we are looking at phase one divided in two sections. The first phase, of course, is about incorporation, building partnerships, and we're also very cognizant of the fact that the digital divide is very real. So we have catered to both remote tech as well as virtual assets so that we can do capacity building for the communities that we are working with. And of course, phase two would be developing the DAO, making sure that the terms are understood by everybody and that there is consent and that we can also bring in translation, which the web at the moment does not cater to. It's very, very anglicized. It's focused on a certain, global north kind of way of looking at it. So if we want Web3 to be inclusive, diverse, accessible, this is the opportunity to do that by giving these stakeholders the ability to also sort of share their material and artifacts with us. The team at the moment comprises two co-founders. Shankar is a recent graduate from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. He is interested in EdTech and is an AR educator. As far as I'm concerned, I am a filmmaker. I teach and work with communities. I look at how to bridge the digital divide, not only through my writing and research, but also by working with communities. I had the privilege to co-author a research on 200 enterprises in India, artisan enterprises, and how they work their way through a post-pandemic world. And that's what inspired me to work here. Yeah.
We're out of time.
Thank you. So this is it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we don't have time for many questions, but it seemed like if there's one takeaway that I would have for you is we need to make the user experience really easy. And we clearly have seen gamers adopt I'm not certain if we've seen those that are collecting handmade goods, but it's a huge, huge opportunity as long as we make it really, really easy to adopt. I think there's a tremendous opportunity. So when are you going to market?
Well, that's a great question. Well, in September, we're going to get an artisan here to work with the lab so that we can actually do an entire pipeline of the augmented reality bit. And from there on, we're hoping, once we have that prototype as well, we can start building up from there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, though. Thank you for the
Thank you.
Thank you.